Jessica with ayearwithjulia.com, and I'm getting ready to start our first recipe of the 365 days. So I thought before we get started, I will give you a tour of my kitchen that we will call home for the next year. We'll start in this corner with our great stainless steel refrigerator, well stocked for this week's recipes. Next, we have our gas oven and gas stove. We already have some water simmering on the stove, getting it up to a boil for our first recipe, which is artichaut au naturel. I have not spoken French. Next, of course, we have our mixer, which I'm sure we'll be putting to much good use later on as we get further into these recipes. Our friend the dishwasher will also come in handy. Here we have our double-sided sink with garbage disposal. In it, you'll see that we've already cut one artichoke, and we've put it in some cold water, and we've rubbed it with lemon juice to keep it from discoloring. Next, we have our pantry, which keeps many of our ingredients that we'll be using. And my favorite thing is our pot rack. This is extremely useful because it is easily accessible, and Julia Child was a big fan of things being easily accessible in the kitchen. Also, the star attraction. Ta-da! Mastering the Art of French Cooking by Julia Child, Simone Beck, and Louisette Bertholle. You'll notice I got the paperback copy because I figured we're going to make quite a mess of it in the next 365 days. So let's get started. Here we are with our first artichoke. Now this is the way Julia Child tells you to prepare an artichoke to cook. First things first, you take the stem, hold on to the artichoke, and be careful because these points are pokey. You'll just bend it until it snaps away from the artichoke body, like so. Then you'll take these small leaves and break them off and get those out of the way. Next, you'll see we have a bit of a stem left, so what we'll do is we'll just take our knife and level off that bottom so that it sits flat. The next thing we'll want to do is flip it back over and cut off about 3/4 of an inch of these, the cone tips on the very top point. Okay, excellent. Next, what we'll do is you'll want to go around the artichoke and take your scissors and cut off all the rest of the little pointy tips on the leaves. Okay, so now we have finally gotten all the little sharp tips cut off of our artichoke, and what we'll do next is go to the sink and wash it off. Alright, the next step we want to do is we're going to cover all of the tips with lemon juice, because now that they're exposed, we don't want there to be any discoloration. So you can either do it individually like this, or we can just dip the whole thing in my little bowl, shake off the excess. And then it says we're supposed to plunge the artichoke into a container of cold water that has a little bit of vinegar mixed in until we're ready to actually put it into the pot. So I'll dip it in here. And over here we have about 4 quarts of water on the stove with a little bit of salt. And as soon as this starts boiling rapidly, we're going to go ahead and transfer the artichokes into the pot of water. At that point, they'll boil for about 45 minutes, and then we'll be able to take them out and prepare them to eat. Okay, so our pot of water is full on boiling now, so we took the artichokes out of the bowl of water from the sink and put them into the pot. However, the next step is then to cover the tops, because they do float, to cover the tips of them in cheesecloth. And cheesecloth is just like this. You can just buy it at the grocery store, and it comes in a package that looks like this. And just so you know, can you see that? It's good for all kinds of cooking purposes, as you can see, and car detailing. One of these things is not like the other. Anyway, it's easy to find, and you just trim off whatever you need, and we do a double thickness here, lay it over the artichokes, kind of tuck them in, and we set our timer for 45 minutes, and we'll check back then. Okay, so our artichokes got about 8 minutes left to keep boiling. So we're going to get started on our next entree entree, which is beefsteak sauté au beurre. So what we have here is a sirloin, and I'm going to trim off the excess fat. Helps if you have a really sharp knife to get through all those layers. Okay, next what we'll do is we'll go around the edge and we'll just cut little incisions into the perimeter. This will keep the meat from curling up when the heat gets into it. Okay, in our pan of a really hot heat we have some butter and some oil already cooking, so what we'll do now is we'll put our meat in the pan to get it a good sear, about 4 minutes on each side, and then it should be ready to go. When you're alone in the kitchen, who's to see? From ayearwithjulia.com, and we've just finished our first day of recipes. So overall it went really well, I think. You can see our kitchen is kind of a battle zone, but things went great. The artichokes came out perfect. The meat looks really good. We haven't tasted it yet. And the both sauces look like they came out all right as well. So now we can't wait to give it a taste. And here it is. I present to you artichaut au naturel with beefsteak au beurre.